We're drinking, my friend, to the end of a brief episode. Make it one for my babe and one more for the road.
We are so pleased this morning to be joined by James Moreland, director of the Manhattan Cocktail Classic. James, good morning.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Good, and we're so happy to be joined by you. This is the type of event that when people hear about, they say, if I'm around that weekend, I'm going to this. Tell us a little bit about Manhattan Cocktail Classic, and I understand this is your first year being involved?
Absolutely, yeah. This is an event that you don't want to miss. The Manhattan Cocktail Classic this year launches with a gala on May 11th to be held in Central Park at the Boathouse. We have a special guest appearing as well. Bill Murray will be hosting the event, and he'll be there with Slovenia Vodka. There's a bunch of other independent events that happen throughout the week, and then we are looking to close down the week's festivities with Mikhail Baryshnikov, hopefully at the Baryshnikov Arts Center with a grand finale masquerade ball.
Okay, now that's a lot to think about, so let's break it down piece by piece. Okay. First of all, talk to us about the type of individual that would enjoy this.
It's very cultural. I mean, I think if I was to summarize it all up in one word, it's a cultural experience that really defines what it means to enjoy cocktails in New York. You know, it is for the people out there that want to come in and explore trends ahead of the curve when it comes to cocktail culture, experience brands that aren't readily available to them on their corner bar, that are just looking to break through. You know, we have some of the best bartenders of the city there at night serving up some of the greatest cocktails, but it's definitely an event for every New Yorker to come in and really partake in the whole culture and what it is to enjoy cocktails in New York City.
And what are some of the brands? You mentioned the brands we may not be familiar with.
This year we've got a couple of small innovative brands that have stepped up in a major way. Like I said, Bill Murray will be there with Slovenia Vodka. It's a small boutique vodka that isn't readily available at every bar, but they're stepping up front and center, and so is Inocente Tequila. Again, small, very artisanal craft boutique brands that are looking to do it differently and looking to get in front of the consumer in a cultural way rather than making it just about the bottle or just about the cocktail.
Now, a couple of months ago, I was in St. Petersburg, Russia at the Four Seasons, and I noticed that they were having an event. It was a cocktail reception, but it was with artisans. I mean, these bartenders basically used everything from dry ice to lavender to make their cocktails, and it became something different. People actually were taking pictures on their phones of these cocktails and posting them to social media because they were that beautiful. In addition to being delicious, talk to us about how we've gone from the sidecar, the Boilermaker, to this new art.
You're right. The industry has taken, and it's interesting that you mentioned St. Petersburg because it is a city that we're looking at taking the Manhattan Cocktail Classic to next year. So just, you know, it's
they'll be receptive. I can promise you that.
Yeah, it's one of those really cool under-the-radar type places that's doing a lot of interesting things out there. More importantly, it's the human spirit and the cultural element of that city that makes it attractive to us, and that's what I am trying to, you know, thread through the festival this year with the Manhattan Cocktail Classic. You're right, some of these cocktails are absolutely amazing when it comes to works of art and how they're created, but I want to take it back to the human spirit, you know, to the person making the cocktail for the person who's enjoying the cocktail. I want to bring that human interaction back to it that we kind of have missed and stepped away from a little bit, and we've kind of idolized and worshipped the glass and the bottle and forgotten about what it means to actually serve another human being and create something for that other human being to enjoy and not create something that's supposed to be worshipped by the other human being. So, you know, that's my philosophy on it. I want to take it back to what it really meant to walk up to a bar and order a cocktail. Yes, we're expected to know how to make great cocktails as bartenders. Yes, it's always a wonderful place to express the artistic element of creating a cocktail, but it does not supersede that human moment of actually making something and serving it to another individual. And I think that's always been the magic of the bartender, somebody who can actually connect with the human spirit on the other side.
Then it's quite appropriate that we started this interview with the Sinatra tune, Set 'em Up Joe, Got a Story to Tell. Talk to us a little bit about the vetting process then and how you choose the bartenders for this event.
Over my career, I've had a large, I've tapped into the students that come through the Culinary Institute or Fairleigh Dickinson and university, and for me, it's about getting in front of those students and explaining to them the true value in bartending and what it is that they're going into if they choose that type of career. My background was an engineer before I got to New York 20 years ago, and all it took was one night behind the bar for me to decide that this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And there's a particular story that's attached to that, and that's what made me want to stay in this industry. So, yeah, I'm looking to bring in some of the younger talent that's looking for mentorship and looking to find their way through the industry and teach them the philosophy of bartending and what it really means to actually want to serve another human. There's something very special about that. I don't think it is for everybody. I think it's for a particular type of individual to get into that. I think it goes beyond just getting up there and creating a great garnish or a great cocktail and putting it on show and showing it off to somebody who's going to walk in and you feel good about them drinking your drink. That's been going on for the last decade. It's getting old. People are tired of it. It's not enough, because it's really lacking that human connection. For me, I had an old gentleman come in 20 years ago. I was in Midtown Manhattan behind the Four Seasons. I had shut down. It was Monday night. It was my favorite night of the week. I used to put on exactly like you had, that type of music, Sinatra, and just, wipe down the bar, break it all down, listen to some music, and it was like my Sunday. It was like my Sunday at the bar, right? So I would chill out. And this old gentleman walks in. He's like 55 years old. He's a little distraught. I made the mistake of leaving the door open. He asked me for a drink, and I said no to him the first time. He asked me a second time, and I said no. He walked out, turned around, came back in, and he asked me a third time, and I automatically decided within that split second that if he asks me for a beer or a vodka cranberry, I'm going to say no. But he asked me for a sherry, and till this day, I've yet to serve another sherry at the bar. So he came in, it was about 1:30. The man was going through some difficulties. He had lost his wife. He had no children. He sat there and he talked to me for 3 hours. He poured his soul out. We walked out of there at 4:30 in the morning. He made a left on Madison and I made a right. The sun was starting to break through. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, because I realized how much I helped that individual, and all I did was sit there and listen to the man and enjoy a drink with him. And that's the first lesson you need to learn in bartending, that if you can't do that, if you don't have that in you, then you're really not going to have any long-term success in this industry behind the bar. There's a handful of great bartenders around the country, the ones that have done it for a career. But this trend and this thing that's been happening in our industry over the last decade, it's not really satisfying the consumer the way it should be, and you hear it from all sorts of people. They're just, they're tired of it. They're tired of it. It's not about worshipping the cocktails or the bottle. It's about embracing the culture that people bring around the moment of enjoying a good cocktail that you're expected to know how to make.
We're speaking with James Moreland, director of the Manhattan Cocktail Classic. He's sharing his business philosophy with us, and what I have to be honest, I didn't anticipate to be a much broader goal, it seems, tied to this Manhattan Cocktail Classic. James, tell us a little bit more about your story. That was a great story about why you decided to do what you do. How did you get here?
I got it. I was in London, and I was in London for a week, and it rained for a week, and I saw I think it was a £99 ticket, one-way ticket to New York, and I jumped on a plane. I thought I'd come and have a look, and I never left. It was blue skies. It was the middle of winter, but it was blue skies, and I thought it was an amazing place. I jumped in behind a bar while I was shopping around for work, and I fell in love with the industry. I fell in love with New York. I still feel the same way. One of the most exciting moments for me, even till today, is that 3:30, 4 o'clock time slot when you're getting ready to receive that nighttime crowd. You just don't know who's going to walk in, and you just don't know what you're going to experience for the night. 20 years later, it still has the same effect on me. It's like pre-show on theatre, I suppose. But I fell in love with the industry, and more importantly, I fell in love with the people in New York and the various different walks of life in New York. Somebody one day at the bar told me that you can live in New York all your life and live here anonymously. That's the magic of New York City. And I think cocktails go hand in hand with that, right? So that was my draw to it. I mean, I've been in the industry a long time. We have something this year called the Barkeeps Trust, which we have set up and we're looking to grow. And what that's about is actually providing real resources to bartenders that have been in the industry in a while, that are looking to open up their own bar and might not have the business direction that they need. There are other bartenders, some of the greats. I've got personal friends that have hit the wall in this industry with alcoholism, and they've tried to find a way out. Those resources haven't been really made available by any organisation, and I want to try and provide that, and that's why it's important for me to talk to a lot of these younger kids that are coming into the industry and give them a heads up. The gala, which is on May 11th, is almost like a fundraiser as well. Sante Tequila is donating part of those funds this year to the Barkeeps Trust, and it's something that we're going to use in New York City, even after the festival is gone, on a monthly basis to try and activate some programming within the industry that gives something back to the bartenders. And like I said, it could be a bartender looking to get back into school, or somebody looking to open up their own restaurant or bar, or somebody who's struggling with alcohol and wants to to find a way to handle that. And it's these are real life issues that I have seen in the industry over the last 20 years. And kudos to Innocente for viewing that, for seeing that, for sharing that vision and wanting to participate. And it's something that's been lacking in our industry. So there's many ways you can move in this industry. And I think when it comes to brands and how they activate and how they sponsor different things in the market, I think there's other ways that you can do things. And I think that's what the the Manhattan Cocktail Classic, that's what I want it to be about. I want it to take it back to the people, to the consumer. And I want it to be about making great cocktails. You're expected to make great cocktails, right? Showcasing the talent that we have in New York, which is world-class talent, right? Trends start in New York City and they filter out into the rest of the world, the rest of the U.S. and the rest of the world and other big cities. And I've seen that. I've seen other cities 5 years behind New York when I've traveled to them, right? So, we have a responsibility here in New York to put on a great festival. New York City's home for cocktails, and that moment at the bars. We still want to lead the world in that, and we want to showcase that. And we have something in New York City that you can't replicate anywhere else. You can take this festival wherever you want, but there's one thing that you can't replicate that you have in New York City are the people and the culture. And it's just that dynamic that exists in New York City is really hard to find in other cities. And that's why I haven't left. I've spent 20 years here.
Now, if someone's listening and they're interested in learning more about the Barkeeps Trust, where do they go?
ManhattanCocktailClassic.com. It's all on there. I mean, the festival, the various events, and the Barkeeps Trust is on there as well. Starting next week, we'll be listing 3 or 4 resources that have come on board that we would be looking to further activate. We've got an element during the festival called the Manhattan Talks, and that is geared around the Barkeeps Trust and talking to the industry and the trade and the media about some of the things that we're looking to build into that. But, yeah, everything's available online. You can see it at ManhattanCocktailClassic.com.
James Moreland, one more time, give us a breakdown of the events and invite folks listening in Greenwich, Connecticut and southern Westchester County to come and check it out.
So the gala will be a spectacular. It's at the Boathouse. People don't really realize that the Boathouse can hold 1,000 people. We have Bill Murray hosting the event. We have a surprise for everybody there in the way that he'll be entering the gala. Slovenia Vodka is the vodka that's sponsoring the gala along with Innocente Tequila, and there'll be a variety of cocktails on show for everybody to enjoy. We have the deck outside as well, and that launches the week's festivities. We have independent events, and then we have the Manhattan Talks throughout the week, and then we close down the festival with a grand finale, which we're planning to host at the Mikhail Baryshnikov Center of Arts here in New York City, and we're hoping we can actually get maybe a choreographed piece in there as well. But these are all part of the plans. But we'll make those details available throughout the next 10 days.
James Moreland, thank you so much for this information. I think it's something that honestly is different than I thought this conversation would be, and probably will be different than what folks initially expected if they go themselves.
Yep, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
We'll be back with more in just a second.